What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here at GSD Studios. First off, thank you so much for checking out today's content. I'll make this extremely fast, but I need to plug our sponsors that make this show possible. Our first sponsor is PerfectStormNow.com, by far the most effective and affordable real estate agent website and database platform in the industry. It is the system I use to sell 50 plus homes every single month. Check it out at www.perfectstormnow.com. Our second sponsor is my personal 90-day mastery bootcamp, which is, again, my personal real estate agent mentorship program where we spend 90 days together, 12 live sessions. You get daily access to me inside the program. You guys, we go so extremely in-depth. There's nothing that's incomplete about this program. You're going to get all the tools that you need to go out there and crush it inside your real estate business. Make sure to go check us out, www.90daymastery.com. You can watch in-depth videos of exactly what's covered to see if the program is for you. See all the raving testimonials we have from all of the amazing agents and clients that went through the program. So make sure to check us out, www.90daymastery.com. All right, you guys, let's jump on into today's content. What is up, my friends? Joshua Smith here with another GSD mode interview where every single week we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses. You guys are out there dominating their space. These are people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, their families, as well as have a big impact on others while they exist. So today, you guys, we got a special guest on the show, a guy I'm really excited to have on the show. So our guest today, you guys, is a top realtor in Aspen, Colorado, not just in Aspen or in the state of Colorado, but actually in the top 150 agents nationally ranked by the Wall Street Journal. He's sold personally over $500 million thus far inside his career. And he works in a market where his clients come from all over, right? So he's working with clients from Hong Kong, London, Sydney, all over the U.S., and lives, sells, eats, and breathes the mountain lifestyle. So really stoked and honored to have Doug Leibinger on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Joshua. Appreciate it. Nice to be on.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I know time's a little limited. I know you got some important meetings you got at GMT, so we'll just jump right on into it. But I'm really intrigued in, a lot of our guests. Like, I'm a real estate agent here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm selling homes to people that live here. They work here, like they need a home here, and you're selling a lot of high-end real estate to people where it's a vacation home. It's, so your marketing has to be strategically different. So I'm just, if we could rewind the clocks, can you give us an idea of how long you've been in the business and really how you've built up this amazing business in a market like you're in?
Sure. So I moved to Aspen 26 years ago. I knew that at that time, thought I wanted to be into resort development. So I thought I was going to be kind of more on the commercial side of the development business. I got advice from a bunch of people as I considered moving from San Francisco, corporate job, suit, tie, driving around and bumper to bumper traffic every day. And I said, this is not my life. This is not what I want to do. And hightailed it back to Colorado, where I'm from. I'm a native of the state. And decided that I was going to be a resort developer, whatever that meant. A bunch of different people within the resort business, mostly ski resorts. I'm a mountain guy. I like to fly, fish, and ski, and hike, and rock climb, and do all of those things. They said, take people out to lunch, interview them, say you're, young 20-something, 22-year-old kid, out of school, you've got a marketing degree. What do you do with that? And they all gave me some advice. And I took a bunch of people to lunch, CEOs of Nail Ski Association and different mountains. And they all said, get your feet wet for a year or two in the hospitality industry. Understand where people come from, how they spend their money in a resort, what they do while they're there, and just make connections and do that. And then break free and go off and do your thing, which is what I followed. I ended up working for the Ritz-Carlton that opened in Aspen in 1992. So that was 26 years ago. And got really great customer service training. Ended up working for that company for 3 years. and then got my real estate license and jumped into the game back in 95, 96 really is when I got started. So I've been doing this business for a little over 20 years now.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. So just out of curiosity, because it sounds like you had, that really good corporate gig in San Francisco, and a lot of people, man, they have this massive fear. They don't go out there and chase their dreams because they just choose to play it safe. And, what was going on internally at that moment? And, how did you know it was right to make that decision? And was it a tough decision to make?
It's funny. When my car got broken into for the 4th time in San Francisco, I said, there's got to be something better than this. And I just decided that I wanted to head back to the mountains that I knew. I'm from Colorado. I'd always enjoyed, the mountain lifestyle when I was a kid, and I went to CU. I was a Boulder grad. It wasn't that hard to make the break. I mean, yes, I was making good money. I was in sales. I was doing well. But it was kind of a rat race, and I just felt like to me, it was more about the passion of being where you want to be, and then making it work from there, as opposed to the other way around, where I think some people, try to get the vacation home in the place they want to be, and they work 50 weeks out of the year, and they've got a 2-week vacation. I kind of wanted to be on vacation where I live, and so that was part of what my choice was in the mix. But I also knew that I didn't want to move to a ski resort and necessarily, and nothing, I'm not taking anything away from that, but I didn't want to be a waiter. I didn't want to, just be a ski instructor. I wanted to do something and kind of have a career and create something more. And I had that vision, in my early 20s, and I, knock on wood, feel pretty fortunate that it's all kind of come to a pass. So.
Yeah, love it. So you got into the business about 20 years ago, and we're in an industry in the real estate space where 90% of realtors fail in the first 3 years. There's a big turnover rate. Like, what were some of those initial things? You jump in the business, you're young. What were some of those initial things that you did to create success out of the gate so you didn't become a statistic early on in your career?
So my path was interesting. I knew that I wanted to get into real estate and development. That most of the mentors and the different people that I interviewed with understood the hospitality side of things. Then they said, get your real estate license, get your feet wet, which is what I did. But the one guy that I really wanted to work for, which is kind of a resort developer and had a sales team and was doing a very high-end development in this valley near Aspen, said, hey, Doug, you've got every component that I'm looking for. You've got perseverance, you've got good attitude, you can think on your feet, but you don't have any experience. So go out and get some experience. And I was like, well, that's great. That's what I'm trying to do with you. Like, this isn't helping me. At that time, my wife was still working for the Ritz-Carlton. She had an opportunity to transfer when the Ritz pulled out of Aspen, and we moved to Puerto Rico. And I ended up going to work for the Hyatt Corporation, selling timeshares, of all things, in Dorado Beach, and had to learn Spanish so that I could actually do a sales presentation in Spanish. And my Spanish is atrocious. But I did all right. I ended up kind of taking, daily ups, as we call them, and people coming through. And I sort of learned the business. I learned rejection out of the gate. I learned how to, how to do. And then what was interesting that I think was a differentiator for me and has helped me on my career path has been that I was the rookie sales guy, but I ended up being like the best rookie they had, but I was a failure on the daily grind. I hardly ever closed a deal the day that the people walked through. And so my sales managers thought that I was going to totally fail. They thought that I was terrible at this business. And they ended up realizing that I was the only guy on the sales line that was actually following up and calling these people from Connecticut and New York and New Jersey that had gone home, they thought about it, and then they'd send their check or the deposit, 6 weeks later, 2 months later, 3 months, and I only got a follow-up. And that was, to me, that was probably one of the best educational models that I could have had, because I wasn't the high pressure sales guy. I didn't hammer people to say buy now and then, cancel later. but I had a kind of a soft pedal approach, but a lot of really good follow-up skills, and that helped me a lot. And that's helped me in my career going forward. So.
Yeah. And then, I know that you, when you first got back to Aspen, you went into the hospitality space, working at Ritz-Carlton, which, like you mentioned, you had a lot of great customer service training and that. How do you feel that experience set you up for success in real estate? Like what were some of those key things that you took away that really feel have impacted you positively in your real estate career?
Sure. So, I mean, I think to me, customer service in any business is paramount. Like whatever you're doing, if you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you still have to provide good customer service. You have to be courteous, you have to be attentive, you have to be a good listener, and really learn what your customers want, what they need, and then follow through on that. That helped me immeasurably. So I'm super grateful to have that experience with a great service-minded, orientated company. And then it was just learning the skills on, doing the timeshare sales in Puerto Rico. In 2 years, my wife got pregnant. We decided to move back to Aspen. And so really have been back in Aspen for 18 years now. And went to a very high-end private club development that did sell fractional ownership. So it was kind of not timeshare, but it was, $250,000 quarter interest in these little cabins, a place called the Roaring Fork Club. I learned that I was on that development team for about 5 years. And then that was the transition into the bigger playing field of the general real estate realm. But, it's a very different market. I just closed a deal with a family that I've been working with for 6 years. So our gestation period is very lengthy and long, and you have to stay in touch. You have to provide good service, good customer service, and a kind of a genuine approach. So all the steps that have led me to here have helped me along the way. And I think there's a lot of people that close the door if they're given a no, or, hey, we're not interested, or we're looking in a year or two. I've watched brokers and agents hang up the phone and never call that person again. And I look at that as an opportunity. It's a great way to, put it on your calendar, make the call in a year. Hey, still thinking about you, and, following up. And that has really helped me a lot.
Yep. Love it. So, after that 5 years of working exclusively for the one developer or the fractional ownership there, when you made that decision to go on your own, is your focus always been more of the vacation, purchaser sell, in that space, or did you how did that all start, or that transition worked? I mean, for a while, did you go more into helping traditional home buyers and home sellers, or has that always been kind of your niche?
So I think it's twofold. One, people have asked me if I would be in real estate in Houston, Texas. And I think I might be, but probably in commercial real estate. I think my mindset would have been more, in that space. But here, where you've got these very astute, educated, interesting people that come from all over the planet, they're on vacation, they're happy, they're having a great time, and I happen to embrace everything that is about where I live. So I can take my clients fly fishing for a day. I can go meet them up on the ski mountain and have lunch and ski a few runs, and it's what I love to do. So it was a pretty natural transition to take one of the guys that I met my very first sale was it was a $2 million deal. And I was like, holy cow, there's a bunch more zeros than what I had sold in the past. And I was like, I kind of like this. I like the end result. And that it was a pretty easy transition for me to keep going and get motivated to take off. And I kind of keyed in on fly fishing and riverfront properties because I'm just passionate. I was a guide. I love fly fishing. It's something that I do. And I know every little nook and cranny of the river, and I knew a lot of homes. I didn't know it from a real estate perspective, but I knew where the properties were, so I could speak knowledgeably, and that kind of helped also. It was a pretty seamless transition into that space. So I guess I focused on river properties maybe initially, and that was, and then it sort of blossomed from there.
So then, and I know now that you've been doing it for a long time, you probably have a huge database, and I'm sure that you're still having to prospect a lot for new clients. But initially when you started, how do you even meet clients that, like you said, that are at that caliber, that are on vacation, because it's different than somebody looking at a home online here in Phoenix that calls me up that has an interest on this home potentially because they're visiting on vacation. Like, how do those relationships even start? And then, from there, what does that nurture look like? Because you can't just say, hey, here's homes for sale, right? I mean, are you sending content about fly fishing and that lifestyle heavy content, things that they kind of keeps reselling them on those areas?
So Joshua, what I would say is I actually do a lot of online prospecting and certainly have, I take that component. I think what a lot of other brokers do, and I've got a Zillow presence, truly a presence in a website that's lead generation. And certainly some of my clients come from that. And I do feel like what I've learned along the way is real estate is definitively a numbers game. And the more conversations you're having with people out there, the better off your chances are. I have also found in my market that people usually fall in love with their property. And so the turnaround time oftentimes is 8, 10, 12 years. It's a longer turnaround than most other markets. So it's establishing that relationship, keeping in touch with those people, letting them, having them refer their friends. That's a lengthy process. And eventually, maybe the buyer that I worked with 10 years ago becomes a seller today. But I'm always prospecting and I'm looking for opportunities. I'll jump on a ski lift as an example. Single. I mean, even if I'm skiing with friends, I'll jump in, take a gondola ride with somebody, strike up a conversation. And, oftentimes that leads to an opening where I get their number, I get their email, say, hey, would you like me to, keep you informed about the $1.5 million condo you said you were interested in? And they say, sure. So, I start sending them, and then I'm touching base with those people all the time. I'm sending them new inventory 4 or 5 years later. Sometimes that becomes a sale. So it's a long, every person I meet along the way, I think could be a prospect 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And I never discount that. And so I've kind of had that built into my database management, my model, how to touch people, send them an occasional email, those kind of things. So it's a conscious effort to think that anybody I meet could be a prospect at some point in time down the road.
Yep. Love it. So then, I'm curious. I don't know how Aspen was affected, but I know, just like most places were heavily affected during, the last real estate crash, those 2008s, 2009s, people were kind of tighter with their money, where they're investing their money. How did that affect you and your business? And if it did have a negative effect, how did you, keep pushing and, not just survive, but thrive during those times?
It was very interesting because Aspen, maybe more so than almost anywhere else, there's a lot of property owners that felt that our little bubble in the world was recession-proof, totally immune to the ills of the world. And that reality came crashing in, as it did all over the place. But, 2007 was the height of our market. 2008, things stopped. Our market didn't really re-engage until about 2010. So we had 3 very lackluster years, of which most people, and certainly most of the brokers that I was working around, and my professional peers, other agents at different firms, were literally walking around the streets with their head, hung low, and their energy, their body. They were literally they were so sullen and kind of miserable to even engage with. And they're like, oh my God, this market sucks. It's terrible. It's awful. And I'm not making any money, and I'm not making, and I actually had a couple of my best years during that time. And I attribute a lot of that to me hiring a coach at that time, because I didn't want to fall prey to the world news and the misery and sort of the hate that everybody was talking about. And that helped measurably. I thought that was a really really great tool because it kind of kept my general attitude up during that downtime. And I don't know, it was an interesting ride. I did really well where a lot of people were really struggling. And I attribute that to that coaching component.
Now, do you think, you employed a coach, which definitely sounds like it helped with the mentality you had with the marketplace. But outside of that, with your success, were you just extremely consistent no matter what on the same things you were doing, the same prospecting? Were you having to do more of it? What were some of those, other things outside of just that mental mindset that you continued to do that were helping you have those best years of your life?
I think it was more about just doing the same thing that I've been doing with consistency, where a lot of my peers just stopped. I think people got frustrated and they sort of shut down. So in that downtime, and then as the market started to improve, it was also realizing that there was opportunity. I started keying in at that moment in time more on focusing relationships on buyers because I knew there were really good opportunities. So my calls, my intention, the way that I was focused was during those down cycle years where there was undervalue and that I could see, I focused on buyer relationships. And then as the market better, then you start to have more seller-driven conversations, which we've certainly had in the last, the 3 years of late have been much better. So now more of my focus and energy and effort and advertising campaign is really more around the seller conversation. So it's I guess being attentive to what the dynamics of your particular market are at any given time.
Yeah, it kind of comes back to that saying of, there's no such thing as a good market or a bad market. It's whom is it good for? Because it's always good for somebody. Your buyer focus at that point, they're getting amazing real estate at a massive discount.
Correct.
Yep. So then, just out of curiosity, when it comes to working with, all the clients all over the country and then clients on such a large international level, what are some of the things that you do to, engage with those clients and get those clients? I know you talked about your online presence with Zillow and Trulia, but are you doing anything to target those clients specifically, like your clients in Australia or Hong Kong or wherever else they're coming from?
So I have, in years past, I've gone to Hong Kong for a sales, driven sort of conference to try to engage with those buyers. I have found that staying true to sort of the task, being good to your existing clients, being getting those referrals and getting that referral base. I ended up meeting a walk-in guy from Brazil, and he's ended up introducing me to his Brazilian friends. I met a guy from Hong Kong. He's introduced me to his friends. So it's really focusing on those relationships and those key components. Maybe you get lucky with one international person who then tell their friends, but I've found that it's not been a conscious effort to run ads in the London, Times or whatever. I find that that's too far afield and not is kind of a waste of money. I've tried, but nothing's ever attributed from that. So,
Yep, love it. So then, you talk about delivering, amazing customer service, and that really being the kind of cornerstone of the foundation of any company out there. But when it comes to real estate, there's a stat out there that 88% of buyers and sellers said they loved their agent. Their agent did an amazing job. Only 11% do a repeat transaction. So it's, hey, we've got to deliver this world-class service, this experience, but then keep that relationship long-term after the fact so they don't forget your name. They might remember the experience, but if they don't know how to get in touch with you. So what are some of the things that you do? Because it sounds like you do such a brilliant job with both that you do in both of those, making sure that you deliver a great experience, but then staying in touch, for that decade or so it takes before they're ready to do another transaction.
So very top of mind, this morning I showed property to a client of mine that lives in Shanghai. I've literally not spoken with them on the phone for 3 years. But the first thing they said when they got in the car were like, we just love getting your Christmas cards and seeing your girls growing up. And how's your family? And, thank you so much for sending your Christmas card every year. So, and the coffee table book of Aspen that I sent to them, that, wasn't an inexpensive deal. It was a $25 book, and it was probably $30 to send. It was whatever. I sent it to every one of my clients. They were like, yeah, your coffee table book is sitting on our coffee table in Shanghai. So that's one component. So I usually try to send 2 things in the mail every year. I send an email on probably quarterly of their neighborhood, just sort of market stats, what's happening in there, like where they bought, whatever that is, whether it's a condominium or a ranch or a riverfront home. I try to keep them abreast. And then I send out usually a monthly sort of market update analysis newsletter via email. And then I do try to pick up the phone and call too. So there's sort of a strategy of all those things. These particular people I hadn't actually physically spoken with on the phone for a while. My bad. I was probably not as good or consistent as I should have been, but they made a definitive note that, hey, I really appreciate you staying in touch. And the personal touch, I think, has helped me. So, I would tell every agent anywhere, send your clients at least a Christmas card every year with a picture of your family or whatever it is, and a thank you note of, hey, I appreciate you working with me and want to stay in touch. I think that's like a baseline, and certainly there's other things that you can do that are also helpful.
Yeah, love it. So then, it's not like you only have a dozen clients, right? You sold, over $500 million of real estate. So in order to stay on top of all this stuff, I got to imagine that, your systems that you have internally in your business, your database and things like that, have to be really important to you, and tools that you use at a high level. How important to you and your business is having those types of systems incorporated?
Very important. And I will tell you, I could be a lot better, and I'm always trying to learn and always trying to improve. I'm not as good as I could be, and I'm always trying to get better on that front. I now have sort of assembled a team around me. So I have 2 young sort of protege brokers that are learning the business, trying to educate them, and they are helping me with open houses and follow-up and social media and different things. I've got a full-time assistant that she's been with me for 5.5 years. I've had a full-time assistant of some kind for 9 years now. And that was a huge game changer. Not only did it give me the ability to have a life and spend time with my family, which is very important to me, but, and get out and go fly fishing or go skiing, but she does a lot of the follow-up work. And so I guess that would be another bit of information, that it seems scary and daunting and expensive to hire somebody to be your assistant. But if you're mired in database administration and you hate doing database administration, you're not going to be as productive on the sales side, if that's what you do, if you don't have that person on your, in your camp. And now there's so many ways that you can shop. You can get somebody to do a lot of the administrative work remotely in some other part of the country or planet, and it's totally well worth the expense, because then you can be doing what you do best on any given day. So,
yeah. So I'm just kind of curious of because I know that you're out and about a lot, right? Meeting with these clients, you're able to go prospect on the ski lift and things of that nature. But, I also know that you're an extremely persistent, consistent, realtor to achieve the success that you have. What does a normal day look like for you? What does that daily process look like?
So I do check our MLS almost daily. I check and see whatever new listings there are. I, for whatever reason, have a good memory on, oh yeah, I remember John was interested in, this particular condominium complex, or, likes that particular ski in, ski out street in Snowmass, or whatever it might be. And so if a new listing comes up, I will send it off to that person. And I usually remember most of those people directly, and I can just send it to them, a quick email, and hey, this just came up. I also have systems put in place so that if new listings do come up and there's parameters set, those clients, and it could be a batch of clients that get, 20 different people are looking for that, under $2 million ski in, ski out, 2-bedroom condominium, I'll automatically send those. So it's taking time any given week to set up the systems to make sure that some of that information is being automatically dispelled, but then also checking that and following up and making sure that the parameters are set up. It was a very painful experience for me. I just lost a client because they were looking for 5-bedroom homes in the $5 to $8 million range. And for whatever reason, I had sort of chopped that out, asked my assistant to set up that search parameter, and they were getting 5-bedroom condos in the $2 to $3 million range. And they finally said, hey, stop sending me stuff.
Yeah.
Painful experience. So it's looking at every part of the system, going back, double checking, making sure that it's set up properly, and then, kind of following through and making sure that it's done right. So,
yeah. Well, especially with your clientele, I mean, I've got to imagine these are extremely, successful, busy people. So if you're sending them, blowing them up with what they don't want, that can get pretty irritated pretty fast.
If you're wasting their time, they're gone. And you don't make those mistakes very often, but it happens every now and again. So the other thing that I've found is making sure that I've helped kind of start this new company here in Aspen called Compass. And I don't know if you're familiar with Compass, but sort of taking the country by storm. And we've got a new database sort of functionality tool that is great because it sends the same information to the husband and the wife. And I've had circumstances over time where regular weekly conversations with the husband, and then you find out the wife buys the house because she wasn't in on the loop, and you weren't sending the information to her. So making sure that every decision maker party is involved, and if that brings in their kids, great. You make sure that everybody's educated.
Yep. Love it. So then just out of curiosity, because I know, the original goal was to get into, the resort development or property development. I mean, have you transitioned into any of that, or is it, have you kind of gotten into that space at all, or is it just, have you just kind of fallen in love with the resale end and kind of stayed that focus?
So one of my clients, we started talking about that 6-7 years ago. He said, yeah, let's develop something. You're the sweat equity guy. I'm going to let you run with it. I'll finance you. I'll believe in you and believe in your ability. So we ended up building our first spec house development. And I don't know, a lot of people give me a whole bunch of grief about this, but my very first spec house development was a 12,000 square foot house that we sold for $17 million at the end of the day. So it was, I guess I had, it was a little bit of cojones, but it worked out all right.
Yep. I love it. That's awesome. So, I what's that?
And I'm starting to look at, there's other opportunities. I've helped be consultant on a couple other things and worked with another partner. We've actually had some really good successes on doing some development. And I'd like to do more and more of that as time goes on. I mean, my wheelhouse is the brokerage side of it, but I enjoy that process. That house that I talked to you about, I basically sketched out on a napkin. So kind of, I think I've always been an aspiring architect, and that was cool to sort of watch from beginning to end something come to fruition and work out all right.
Yeah. Well, with all the experience that you have, I mean, you know what's in demand, you know what people want, you know really where they want it. So I got to imagine that all that just makes that element so much more powerful for you when you do those development deals.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So then I know time's tight for you and you got to get jamming soon. So if you could go back, though, knowing everything you know now after your almost 20-year-long real estate career, and give yourself 2 pieces of advice, knowing everything you know now, if you could rewind the clock, go back and give yourself 2 pieces of advice when you were first starting out that you feel would have fast forwarded your success, what would those 2 pieces of advice look like?
It's a really good question. I think, one, choose where you want to live and commit to it. Don't bounce around. So that would be one component. But assuming you've already gotten to that point, I would tell you that virtually every person you come into contact with any given day can be a potential client down the road. So figure out a system now to stay in touch with those. I was a fly fishing guide when I first moved here. I so wish that I had all of those names and phone numbers and email addresses and addresses. And I wasn't thinking in those terms when I first, landed here. That wasn't. So that's one thing that I would have, because I had such a great rapport with those people, but I've lost touch with them. So, think in terms of creating and establishing a database. I think technology allows that much easier today than it did, 20, 25 years ago. So that would be one component that I would do. The other component is don't get caught up in the story. Like when you think the world is falling apart, and I certainly, until I hired that coach when the market was really tough, I could get caught up in the story of, oh gosh, I've called this guy 10 times. He must not like me anymore. I don't know and wasting a tremendous amount of time thinking about something that really wasn't true. So don't get caught up in the story. I guess that'd be the other bit of it. But it took me a long time to learn that, and I'm much better at that now. So that'd be my parting word.
Yeah, love it. Powerful words. And those that are watching and listening, I know I end every podcast with this, you guys, but information without implementation truly is just the start of delusion. Information is not power. It's taking that information, taking action on that creates that power where you're able to go create the life you know you want, deserve. And Doug shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you guys today. Take something that you learned, go out there and take immediate action on it. So again, you can go create that life you know you want, deserve. And Doug, I know how busy you are. It's been a massive honor having you on the show. I truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here.
Joshua, thank you. And anybody has questions about Aspen, call me. And I love it. Thanks for your time and what you do and helping other people. And it's good stuff. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. It truly means a lot. And those that are watching, listen, we'll make sure that all Doug's info is below. So we'll make sure that we have his contact info, his website. So if you want to get in touch with him or have clients to refer up that to his area, all that will be below. So thanks again, and we will see you next time.